everybody. Welcome back to Life and Love Post-COVID. I'm your host, Eric Kardosh, and today I get to have our local celebrity and just an amazing badass woman that I adore, Shaunda Brown. Hi, Shaunda.
Thank you, Eric. So great to see you. So great to see my loved ones here.
It's so good. I love these events. I'm like, it's so fun to geek out and see people we love at the same time and share our stories and magic. So
technology is amazing when it works.
Yes, when it works. So Shaunda, would you first, before we tell your juicy story of how you became one of our local celebrities here in Bali, can you just tell us a little about who you are and what you're passionate about in the world?
Yeah, so my name is Shaunda Brown. I'm originally from Albany, Oregon in the US. And basically, I guess I can start the journey when I was in New York City. I was working as Senior Director of Business Development for a fintech company looking to create a more free financial system for early career professionals. And I went through burnout of just pushing it so hard that I decided to take a 6-month sabbatical, which has now lasted 3 years. I first came to Bali, where I am now, to do a Vipassana meditation and fell in love with Bali. And I had been traveling around the world doing all the things that I've wanted to do, just didn't have the time to do. And then this whole thing called the COVID popped up in 2020. And I was actually with my mother volunteering in the slums of India when my best friend Victorian called me and was like, hey, let's go to Bali and get a dope house for a month while this thing blows over.
Yeah, Victorian.
Yeah. And so we came to Bali and I just fell in love with this place and it is now home. And after a crazy course of events, Victorian and I started this thing called Bali Live to be able to help support the Balinese livelihood and raised a bunch of money through this virtual festival that we created several different projects and initiatives that are now funded by the federal Indonesian government and spread across Indonesia. I'm actually going to go visit one of the sites tomorrow of the Urban Garden Initiative. And through that course, I have been able to kind of go deeper into that, and now am the CEO and founder of Circles Bali, which is a nonprofit based in Indonesia to be able to provide a universal basic income on the blockchain to all Balinese to help meet basic needs and provide wealth equality. And so that is awesome. But more importantly, I just really love my life. It's been an incredible journey and adventure in this continuing trusting and surrendering and allowing the magic of the universe to happen for me. And that's what we want to talk about today, is what this kind of crazy story has been. Like all of that journey has been just a consistent allowing the universe to work for me so that these things happen, which are completely different than what my tiny human brain would have ever planned out in the perfect scenario. So
yeah. I love it. And this is one of the reasons why we're going to go into like how you exploded around here in other ways. But one of the things I really love about your experience is the fact that you were part of this whole global experience, right? Like what the story about the story you're about to tell is how you took what was happening to so many people around the world of a COVID experience and how you made it something different, something that was yours, and how you reacted in a way that no one expected. I'm going to just go out there and say no one expected.
I sure didn't expect that either. So.
So would you just take a minute? I've been like given lots of like hints about what happened, but would you just tell the story of like what was happening for you when you were traveling back to Indonesia and became famous?
Yeah. So spoiler alert, I became famous in an Indonesian, in the Sulawesi government hospital COVID ward in Sulawesi, because when I landed in Indonesia, I tested positive for COVID and was put into this hospital COVID ward unexpectedly. And so I guess I can start from the
But your
beginning of what.
parents, you were just with your parents too, like at a beautiful resort and like.
Yes, it was it's just insane when I think back about what happened and how this course of events unfolded perfectly, for everything to really result even better later on throughout the past couple months that have just happened. And I'm so grateful that things happened the way they did. And it was not, I did not feel that way all the time.
Yeah.
As my dear friend and spiritual guide Laura is on this call and was coaching me throughout this process about how, oh my gosh, this is not what I expected. I wanted to be on this beach resort in Manado with my parents who I had just flown in with, and just really surrendering and releasing to this moment that was absolutely perfect. Yeah. And so to start from the beginning, I had flown from Costa Rica, and it was a 70-hour flight to fly from Costa Rica to Manado, Sulawesi. And I stopped in LA and stayed with my bestie Victoria for the night, and then picked up my parents in LA and then flew to Sulawesi. When we landed, we all got COVID tests as part of this 7-day quarantine that was required by Indonesia. And we then transferred to our gorgeous private island with white sandy beaches and scuba diving right in front, where we had a chef with 5-star hat, like, come and deliver you gluten-free banana pancakes in the morning. We're like, this is a good quarantine. I can deal with this. And I've just reunited with my parents, which was that they're on the call right now. And it was so wonderful to have them there. And then 34 hours later, we're actually at dinner, and the guy calls my dad over, and he's like, Mr. Brown, can we talk to you for a second? And we're like, oh, that's not good. And he goes out into the room, and we hear dad say, oh, she's got it, does she? And my mom and I look at each other, and it's like, one of us is going down here.
Oh my God.
It turns out that I had COVID, and no one knew what was going on. But what ended up happening is that I was picked up from this beautiful beach resort and taken to the Sulawesi Government Hospital COVID ward.
Which probably didn't look a lot like the white sandy beaches and 5-star chefs.
No, not at all. Not at all. It was, a hospital COVID ward. So they picked me up by ambulance, this boat with people with Tyvek hazmat suits and face guards at this tropical island, and by ambulance for an hour and a half going to the nearest city. And nobody speaks English, and my Bahasa was rusty after 6 months of being in the US for a while, and just figuring out what was next. And there was no information, which you're just there, and they can't tell you when you're being tested. And it was a hospital. It was a hospital COVID ward. So rows and rows of people that are tested positive for COVID. Yeah. Half of them were Bule or foreigners, and half of them were Indonesian. And you're all in these rooms with glass windows out open, and the doctors would walk around with these full Tyvek suits on with the face masks, hazmat suits and masks, and you can see the sweat fogging in their goggles, and just, man, the compassion for them being of service to the people that don't want to be here, Yeah. And so the individuals there were all meant to be someplace else, and it wasn't going according to plan. And that's not where I wanted to be. I wanted to be with my parents, who I hadn't seen for a while. But through the course of this, I just decided that this is an opportunity for me to fully surrender and to really trust that the universe is working for me here. I don't know what this is needed, but apparently my love and light is needed at this COVID ward instead of on a tropical island. And so it was just my opportunity to shift my perspective, because I think that really our perspective creates our reality. And so if this is what it is, that is my opportunity to really live my life's purpose, which is to experience love, joy, passion, and to share that with others. And so I looked around, and everyone was just angry. They didn't want to be there. They were being horrible to the staff that was trying to support us, and like literally throwing riots of because they wouldn't tell us when we were being tested, and when we could be released. And so I just made the conscious choice to really embrace this opportunity, and make the most out of it, and literally dance through it, of taking that perspective of like, oh, this is a horrible situation. This is not what I planned, instead of saying this is an opportunity that's happening for me. And so maybe there's some gift in here if I just really experience that sense of my true self that I know to be that love, joy, and passion, and see what happens. And so I was just sharing love and joy with everyone that I interacted with. And I found that, first of all, that was a more effective way to get results than to be angry and rioting. Is that when I was kind to people and loving and giving, that's when the magic happened. That's when things aligned, and I started to see magic happening. Like, and that as a result, I was able to actually get tested before they said that I would, versus a lot of the other individuals that were just angry and not
helping,
not experiencing that joy. Yeah. And so I took this as that opportunity, and would wake up every morning and put on my music in my hospital room, and dance and celebrate. And every time the nurses would come in, they'd dance with me, and we would just have fun with one another, which is so unlike anything else that was happening elsewhere in the world, of like people enjoying the current situation that we are. And so that's our opportunity, is to really shift that perspective. And so I had a lot of time there. And so I filmed this one of the dances that I did. I was just dancing in my room to Peya's Blessed We Are. And I filmed it and posted it on Instagram as a reel. And in my post, I even say, like, you know, I'm a geriatric millennial. I've never filmed myself dancing, and I've never gotten on the TikTok bandwagon. But you know, this is our opportunity to really perceive what happens for us, and to shift that narrative to say this is happening. This is an opportunity, you know, as Laura says, if life gives you lemons, make a rainbow, and they'll wonder how you did it. And so I didn't realize at the time that this is that simple post would go so viral. But when I got out of the hospital, I was at dinner the next night, and the waiter comes up to me and goes, "Wait, Shaunda you're Shaunda, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "You're famous." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Look at this article." And there had been 50 articles that had been picked up by the national newspaper of Indonesia that had promoted this dance that I did.
Foreigners have fun in COVID wards.
Beautiful foreigner dances. Yeah. Some of the headlines were just hilarious. Beautiful foreigner dances happily in COVID ward. And it was all over. I saw myself on TV at the resort that we were on, of like this. One of the most hilarious ones was on the national broadcast, on the news broadcast. It's Muslim country, and so they had blurred out the centerpiece of my torso, because I was just in my yoga gear doing my morning routine, right? And
so they blurred out your whole midriff.
Yeah. Different articles had were perspectives from the Sulawesi government that were proposing this as like, look, she was dancing so happily because she was happy with the services that were provided. And so that just says why Indonesia is so great, which is actually quite the opposite at the time. I was quite frustrated that I couldn't get testing. And so I was using dancing as a way to get in flow and move the energy in my body to get back to that status of where things can really, really happen for me. Because if I'm just sitting there, all that energy is pent up and just shaking it out. Yeah. And so being able to celebrate that joy and that life instead of really
let it explode all over everybody else.
Exactly. Let it explode over everyone else. And so So that happened. It
Wow.
was kind of incredible to then be recognized at different airports and walking down the street, and having all these Indonesian people like, oh, Shaunda, can we get a selfie? And just taking selfies with everyone that was recognizing me from having this crazy situation that I didn't plan. Like, things did not go according to what I had planned at all. Like, I had wanted to be at this beautiful beach resort and not by myself in a hospital COVID ward. But really, that's an opportunity for us to really trust the process and really surrender and say, like, okay, like, what you got up your sleeve for me, universe? Let's make a game out of this, of like, this isn't what I would have planned myself, but this is what's happening, and I can make the most out of this if I follow that life's passion, if I really follow what is true to me and experience love, joy, and passion instead of trying to force things, which is typically what I had done in my New York City days. So it was a good reaffirmation of the universe that has my back when it kind of blew up of like, look at what happens with being famous in an Indonesian COVID ward when we do that.
One of the things, this is such an incredible story, and I can't say I'm totally surprised that it happened because it's you, but and one of the things I found really beautiful also in your story is it felt like, I work with a lot of couples who they're like, I'm just in a shitty relationship, or, I can't find, like, we won't ever make it work, or you're not in a relationship, like, life just sucks. And it's like, you're constantly looking for evidence to build that case. Right? We're constantly seeking, like, let me look for more data to show you how terrible this situation is. And that's what you saw happen with lots of people around you, most of the people around you, right? Like, this is a crappy situation. Let's just find all the ways that are crappy and make sure everybody around us knows how crappy it is. And in your case, you were like, you chose to seek evidence of the opposite. You chose exactly. To be like, where is the joy? Where am I? How am I still safe with myself? How am I still happy? How can I pull out the energy and use it for good? And you looked for that. And as you turned your perspective, your focus, your attention on to the opposite case, the one that was going to give you the more positive outcome, then things started lining up to show you, oh, here's more evidence. Here, you want another dancing nurse? Let me give you a dancing nurse. You want an early testing? Let me tell you, here, just have more evidence. And I think that happens so often when we stop focusing on our old stories that help us feel like victims and feel stuck in the mud and feel like it's like, here we are, we can be the martyrs of whatever this situation is. And when we step into our power, it has this massive ripple effect. And I see that happening with you. And now you mentioned before, you're like, this is just the beginning. What happened after that event has been amazing too. So I want to know more. What has happened after that?
But I think you really nailed it, is that I wasn't always like happy and dancing. Like, you can talk to the people that are on this call that were listening to me, like, so frustrated at points where there was no information. We didn't know what was happening or when I would be out. And so that's when I use that as an opportunity working for me to really be able to step back into that power. And instead of being this victim and feeling small and overwhelmed, which there were definitely moments of that. And that's when I used the tool of dance to be able to get back into my flow, to move that energy and to really focus on that gratitude, like literally a celebration of being alive, that I felt okay. I'm so grateful to be alive right now and to be able to have everything that I need to be able to live this life that is really my dreams. It may not be what I had expected and planned, but that's what the process was at that time, of really using that choosing to focus on the abundance of the situation rather than the scarcity of what it was. And so, like, as you said, our perception creates our reality. And my reality was happily dancing in that COVID ward rather than being pissed off in the corner like so many others. And so as a result, I'm also so grateful for the people in my life and the support that I had during that time, because with the nonprofit that I work with, I had these amazing resources and tools of people who love me that are here in Indonesia that were trying to help figure out the testing situation, because this is all new and it's very Indonesian that there's no information that's happening. And it turns out that there wasn't any testing available on weekends, and the government hospital COVID ward only tests once every couple days, and the tests take 2 days, and then it's the weekend, and so then you'd have to wait till next week. And so it just didn't make sense to support people that were in there. And so my amazing team at Circles Bali actually helped me to work with the US Embassy and with the doctors and the head of the hospital COVID ward to create new policy for the hospital to allow for outside testing to come in, so that everyone there was able to get tested from these outside labs and be able to be released when they were negative and when they were safe to enter society again. Yeah. And so as a result of that, I was introduced to some of the top leaders throughout Indonesia. We decided not to push that and actually like share the truth of like how the situation wasn't necessarily an optimal situation, because the reason that this went so viral was because it was focused on the positive situation, and it was focusing on the good and the abundance of what that was. And so through that, I was able to actually create more results of like getting that outside testing and changing that policy, rather than saying like, yeah, but you could have had toilet paper there, or you could have told us that we needed to bring sheets, like,
oh God,
we got some, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
whole new level.
It's a whole new level. Like, yeah, Victorian, I remember calling him and being like, there's no toilet paper, there's no sheets, there's no pillows. There's like, you get a dried fish with rice for meals. And it was pretty bare, but I had everything that I needed. And so was able to get those resources. And so Victorian sent me a beautiful bouquet of flowers that just brightened up the room. And I gave those to the nurses in the COVID ward, and they were just so overwhelmed. They said that this is the first time that someone's been kind to them at the COVID ward, which just kind of broke my heart about how we can just be so ingrained in our own experience. And I think that's what really brings that spark of life, is like really contributing to the lives of others, and that kindness really does make an impact and creates more of what we want by welcoming that vibration in.
Yes. Wow. Dang, woman. You have that was such an adventure.
That was an adventure, to say the least. And there's still different articles that are being posted, and I wish I could share some of them. They're quite hilarious, but especially since they take the exact post that I had and kind of say that this is the story about Shaunda Brown, but they take exactly what I wrote and say it like it's coming from them. So when they call me a geriatric millennial and it doesn't post it to TikTok. And it's quite funny. So
that's hilarious. So Thank you for sharing all that. Is there anything else that has happened since then that you've seen any ripple effect that's come out of? I mean, the hospital changed its policy. Is there anything else that you wanted to share about what has been occurring for you since this whole experience?
Yeah, I think that a huge part of where I witnessed the universe happening for me is that there was a fear that I had around COVID. And I'm so grateful for this time to be over or manifest into a different situation of whatever this is. But that my biggest fear in my life was to get COVID and to share that with my parents, and to get my parents really sick. And I was very aware of this. I worked on it, but and so I think I truly created this situation where I had actually exposed my parents, and luckily they did not test positive. They tested negative, and we were able to leave quarantine after 7 days. But I think that the universe really provided this situation for me to confront that and to really trust that situation. And it worked out really well, to be honest, because I only had to stay a couple more days in quarantine than my parents did, and with a mandatory 7-day quarantine. I was in quarantine for 9 days total. And when we got out, I had this superhuman immunity. And so I was able to go see people and not have that fear that I could get my parents sick again, and just really embrace that was okay. And, over the course of the next few weeks in Bali, when I was with my parents, they both got COVID, and I was able to, at separate times.
Yeah.
So
that's
I was
nice.
able to, yeah, I know.
Nice.
So I was able to take care of them, and I was able to know that wasn't also as a result of my
you.
Of me.
Yeah.
And had things happened differently, I wouldn't have been able to help my father achieve one of his life dreams, which was to go swimming with whale sharks. And that was kind of one of the reasons this whole thing that we had planned, this 2-month Indonesian adventure, was to take my parents swimming with whale sharks. And my father got
I saw
COVID
the videos.
right
they looked
before
incredible.
Then. Yes, it was incredible. It was incredible. But I had promised, like, as a young age, that my father, like, when I made my first million, that I was going to take him swimming with whale sharks, because that was one of his life dreams. And that happened last year when my company went public. And so this was the whole culmination of it. And the timing with COVID worked out kind of perfectly, that he tested negative the day that we were meant to leave, and we were able to make that happen. And it all worked out exactly the way that it was meant to, because it
amazing.
did.
Amazing. What a great story. And I got some really beautiful learnings from just what you shared in terms of people who are tuning in are really looking for, how do we embrace what's next after this COVID era? It's like the momentum is really slowing down with COVID, and I think the momentum for us having, like, stepping more into our power, embracing our fun, embracing our freedom is really starting to pick up. And I just love what you shared around the gift and the opportunity of the situation. What is it? What is the gift? And just really tuning into, what are you focusing on? Your perspective is creating your reality. And so really being conscious of what you're choosing there as you're creating this next leg of your journey and in life. What are you focusing on? What are you putting your time and energy towards? And if it's ruminating that stuckness, all right, then is that really going to create what you desire? And if not, then how can you begin to shift that? I don't mean put on rose-colored glasses and ignore all the bad things, or spiritually bypass or emotionally bypass, or but it really, like, you had amazing support. You called in support to help you with the tough stuff. And then through that, and through being with yourself, you chose to focus on something different and change the energy you already had in the grumbles that could have been grumbles, into something totally different that had a huge ripple effect on the people around you, and then internationally, which is really amazing. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners? This was such a powerful story, and I just really appreciate you.
I think you nailed it right there, as far as just shifting that perspective and calling in the support that I needed to be able to do that fully. And those people are actually on this call. My parents, my family, of like supporting me unconditionally during that time. Victorian just always being like just radiant source of joy and sending me flowers, for example. And
so good.
Laura being my spiritual coach, and just like really being able to help me look at where my belief systems didn't support me. And that's been a huge aspect for me to be able to transform that. So I highly suggest calling in that support in whatever form that looks for you. For me, it's those people that really allow me to recognize when I am being a victim or not trusting, and being able to shift that into a perspective of abundance and gratitude to be able to make magic happen, like getting COVID, going to a hospital ward, and then becoming famous.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Hey. God, it's so good to have you here.
The other aspect that I'd say is just being able to give to others. Like that helps me to get out of my own self and my own mind, and just being able to focus on how that's showing up for others in the world. And so for me, that's just daily interactions. And then also what I'm doing now with my energies is creating Circles Bali to be able to help improve livelihood for others. And so I'd love for people who are in Bali, when we launch next year, to invite you to join, to get a basic income, and be able to create that wealth equality. But that has been a huge part of really being able to be in that joy is it's a selfish reason to give to others and to have fun with it, because it doesn't have to be hard work. It's really fun. You can dance through it.
Yeah, I love it.
Exactly.
And if people are tuning in, they're like, wow, this is really cool. How do I stay connected? How do I stay connected to you to learn more about when Circles Bali is going to launch?
So Instagram, Facebook, we actually are in the process of getting our legal approval in the next few months. I actually just got back from a week-long intensive strategy retreat with the Circles Bali team, which is just incredible to see how it's all coming together, and the right people with the connections in Jakarta and the government and the National Research and Innovation Agency are coming to support all this. So we haven't put a website up for that yet, but I will be sharing that soon. And our website is circlesbali.org. But we won't launch that until we have the legal approval. And then you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Shaunda Brown. I'm locked out of my Facebook account right now, but I should be able to get that back shortly.
All good. Okay, I'll post all your links and things in the group, and then for anybody who's watching this as a recording, I encourage you to go ahead and post any questions, comments, anything you have right in the group, and Shaunda won't be able to log in and see it, but I will send it to her and I'll type her replies and things in there too for you, or make sure you're connected. You can just message her directly on her Instagram. So, all right, my dear. Oh, so juicy. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. It's so beautiful to hear your journey, a part of your journey, and get to share that with the world. And I love just watching how you're moving through and really creating such magic for not just like those who know you close, but like this ripple effect throughout all of the world, but especially here in Bali. It's been amazing to watch. So thank you.
Thank you, love. I'm just so grateful that everything happened the way that it did, even when I can't see it at the time.
Yeah.
You know, that's the one thing that I would say of my big takeaway is just really trusting the process, because that is not what I wanted to happen. And when I just allowed that to happen and be grateful and abundant in that opportunity, it's like, that's when the magic happens. So continuing to do that with everything, whether it be land or work or opportunities all around. Yeah.
I agree. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you everybody for tuning in. And I will post all the links.
Thank you, loves.
Bye.
Really appreciate you, Harry.
Thanks, you too, babe.
Bye.